Deven Choksey, MD of Deven Choksey FinServe, for some perspective on how the street is seeing these developments as far as the stocks is concerned. And of course, standard disclaimers there. You're watching NDTV Profit, which is part of the NDTV group owned by AMG. Deven bhai, just want to understand, nothing new to the eye in any of the allegations. This has been asked and answered. And if you look at the clarification that came as well, it reiterated a lot of what was said last November, isn't it?
Yes, Tamanna, good morning. Yes, absolutely. I think the company has clarified their stand, and I think they have replied to SEC also, I think, on that stand. In my viewpoint, the Department of Justice, I think at this point of time, trying to get into the discovery phase of those allegations, which in my viewpoint, I think going by the precedences, I think would take at least 2 to 3 years, for which I think they will have to establish whether whatever the questions that they've asked, I think which is basically being getting answered through a service mode. I believe that I think it will take at least 2 to 3 years. And since I think the jurisdiction of SEC is not reaching out to India, they will have to necessarily travel through the Ministry of Law. So in my viewpoint, I think at this point of time, I think it's more going to be a response to whatever the queries that they may come up with. Nothing essentially gets proved. I think beyond whatever the company has stated, I think nothing gets proved here.
Good morning, Alex. I'm just wondering about what you thought of the stock reaction. Of course, sentimental, but in terms of fundamentals, and you've seen a few results come through as well, the knocks seemed a little exaggerated. What did you think?
Yes, Alex, good morning. Well, I think the majority of the companies are now in a state where I think they're too big to fail kind of a category, which means that I think neither the bankers nor the governments of the world or maybe regulators of the world would like any of these companies to get affected beyond a point. So that position remains very strong. I think having said that, connect with numbers, I think already annualized EBITDA of around 110,000 crore the companies, the group is making. So certainly, I think they are much more stronger position in the infrastructure space. And in my understanding, the infrastructure like port, infrastructure like airport, or even for that matter, power transmission infrastructure, they are all extremely critical infrastructure segment now as far as the country is concerned. So certainly, I think they are most important one. I would think that I think the growth rate continues at least at the rate of 15 to 20%. And the debt position compared to EBITDA is systematically coming down. Today, the net debt to EBITDA is around 2.4, 2.5 times. I think that's where probably I think the group is showing relatively better strength. So in my viewpoint, I think things are looking pretty strong. As far as the valuations are concerned, again, looking back into the past, whenever this kind of allegations had come and I think the stock prices fell, the valuations, I think, came to the rescue. In my viewpoint, today, the valuation at which most of the companies are quoting, including ports, I think are at a price at which I think the buying interest emerges. I think it has emerged in the past, so it I think likely emerges now also in the coming period. Remain, I think, pretty confident about the fundamentals of the companies within the group. So that's where our conviction is.
And just a sense of the cash flows that some of these businesses will generate over the course of the next 2 or 3 years or 4 years. And you wonder sometimes as to what is the market thinking. But Deven bhai, is it prudent to assume that what you are saying, that if there are dips into these, then some of the businesses within the group become attractive to invest in?
Yes, Neeraj, absolutely. I think, see, look at, I think these are the cash cow businesses. You alluded cash flows, and I think the 67,000 to 70,000 crore worth of cash flow that the group is basically assuming. In my viewpoint, I think the port business, even transmission business, airport business, these are all the businesses are now generating significantly large amount of daily cash flows. In fact, I think that is where probably I think you have got larger amount of conviction coming from the global funds, the sovereign funds, the insurance funds among them. And that is where I believe that I think if the prices dip for a reason, a sentimental reason, then probably some of the large investors would definitely want to buy this opportunity at such price. And as I was making a point, I think this kind of probes, I think they go nowhere beyond a point. you look at, I think, how exactly the Department of Justice probe and SEC probe on Goldman Sachs in 2020, I think they came out winner. Even, I think, past incidences of Siemens AG, I think they came out winner. So in my viewpoint, I think they do not want to disturb the business. That is where the investor would buy at a lower price. I think if the market gives an opportunity, I think there is going to be a systematic buying interest coming in from some of the large funds.
I want to bring in Parag Thakkar into this conversation as well, just to give some perspective of what is happening. And if you look at the last week or so, you had a slide across the board for a multitude of reasons. Part of it, Q3 results. This, of course, saw an impact as well. This news which had come in and hit, the stocks of the Adani group, etc. Are these now opportunities to build positions, or is this fundamentally something that clouds the view?
No, we have to see ultimately what comes out. But as highlighted, I think some of the stocks like Adani Ports, which I track, for example, the market cap is 3 lakh crores. This quarter, they generated 4,500 crore of cash profit. So basically, they will do 22,000 kind of cash profit, which is 6 to 7% cash flow yield in an annuity business, irreplicable asset. Right? It's a moat, business with a huge moat and huge annuity cash flow and predictable cash flows. So I would say that this kind of falls will give opportunities to investors to buy into such high quality assets. So I would say Adani Ports, whether it is, as Choksey bhai said, Adani Transmission, Adani Power for that matter, Adani Enterprise, which owns airport business. Now that business is closer to doing a 4,000 crore EBITDA, right? And there were talks of demerging it or coming out with the IPO. So I would say that recently, for example, Adani Group has invested 18,000 crore in Adani Enterprise at 1,800 rupees per share in a rights issue. So that shows that skin is in the game. So I would say that, ultimately, I don't know what is going to happen in all this. This is a, I would say, subjudice matter, but I would say that assets are becoming very, very attractive. And that is true for most of the markets. If you see, for example, keep talking about PVR, market cap is now 9,000 crores. And this was the price when there was COVID and there was no visibility of people going to theaters. Now, Dhurandhar and Border 2, everything is going hit and still the stock price is same. This is because of unwinding of some sort. Some people are pressurized to sell due to redemptions.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. Deven bhai, the other question would only be this, right? At some point of time, the market starts valuing businesses on the back of either cash profits, cash flow, earnings yield, predictability of annuity revenues, etc. That time might be now, you believe?
Absolutely. I think, see, currently market has enough amount of confidence except for the currency misbehavior. I call it misbehavior because on one side, I think dollar strength is threatened. On the other side, Indian rupee is weakening. Ideally speaking, it should be the other way around. And that's the reason for which I think the confidence is slightly lacking. That I think for other than fundamental reason, there is a withdrawal happening in the markets. That's where probably I think people are slightly nervous. But having said that, I think valuation matters. And I think some of these companies which we are talking right now, I think they are available at a close to historically low valuations. Be it port, be it airport, or be it for that is enterprise, or be it for that matter transmission. Some of these businesses are available at close to, I think, the lowest valuations probably. And that is where I see the possibility of they getting attracted with the investments from some of the large funds. And I think those funds which are looking at the cash as a main consideration, I think the annuity businesses, probably I think they would be the ones who would probably put money at this point of time at lower levels.
Kush, just adding you to the conversation, of course, the sharp slide on Friday. But having said that, if you look at the entire portfolio of stocks in the Adani Group, what stock, in your opinion, stands out based on technical indicators that might provide a good platform at this point to buy?
Ports for sure. What was very interesting is the fact that despite the kind of heavy selling, volume-backed selling, everything you put together, there is positive RSI divergence on the daily charts. Very exciting. The 1290 level has acted as a support in the past as well. August, mid-August is where that acted as a low. So I would actually suggest keep that as your stop loss. 1285, 1290, that zone, keep that as your stop loss. You could play for a positional long on Adani Ports. positive RSI divergence, sharp reaction. If there's any kind of rebound, the risk-reward ratio is quite favorable from here.
Sanjay Asher, senior partner at Crawford Bailey, also joining in the conversation. We want to get a legal angle also very quickly, and I know markets are opening in just about 7-8 minutes odd. But Mr. Asher, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and a very good morning to you. Just trying to understand procedurally what is different from the process that we saw a few months ago. Is this just one step after the other technically, or is there any material difference?
No, it's just one step after the other from a legal perspective. So there is nothing new which has happened. It's just completing the legal process going forward. So I don't foresee an issue completing the legal process and the entire thing then coming to an end.
Okay. The reiteration of what the group has said in its exchange filing and quite a bit of what it actually reads a lot like what was said last November, which is that these are allegations and summons against individuals, not of the company. Now, what is the legal distinction?
Because a company, if there is anything which has gone wrong, which the company has done, in which event, obviously the directors will be held liable because the decisions are taken at the directors level, at the board of directors level. Whereas if individuals have done something wrong, then obviously the allegation is on the individual and not on the company. The individual is responsible for his own actions or inactions, whereas the company is responsible through the board of directors for its actions and non-actions. So therefore, there is a very clear-cut distinction between the individuals who have been roped in as individuals and not as the board members.
Sanjay, good morning. Alex here. I'm just want to drive home that point, right? Which is that a lot of these companies have actually come out with exchange notifications as well, saying that they are not party to legal proceedings in the US. That is essentially what they're saying. They have no, there is no bearing on the company as a whole, and therefore on minority shareholders as well.
Correct. As an individual, I may have done something wrong, and which is why any regulator can initiate action against me. But if at all the company has done, then all the directors are roped in, and the company would also be made a party to any of the actions or inactions of the company.
Okay, gentlemen.
Therefore, the company,
sorry.
Words, the company.
Please finish your point, Mr. Asher. Please finish your point.
And therefore, if the individuals are roped in, or any action has been taken against the individuals, then those individuals are responsible and they have to answer the questions. Now, if the individuals have to be roped in into any of the regulatory matter, then obviously the regulator has to prove, or regulator has to prima facie show that these individuals in their individual capacity have done something which is not within the four corners of law, or something which they have breached.
Okay. Points well noted. Mr. Asher, Deven Choksey, gentlemen, both of you, thank you so much for taking the time out and being with us. Really appreciate your time this morning.